Okay, so good afternoon to one and all. This is Varun Chothani here, an alumni from IIT Kanpur. I would be your MC for today, today's session, which is the Fast and Furious track. Let me start by introducing the session first, what this track is in store for us, what it brings to us. In today's track, in today's world, pace is very important in the market. You really need to have speed in order to get going. So new business models are emerging, priorities are changing, and companies are leveraging innovation strategies to capture customer attention and drive growth, while strategically positioning themselves to secure good funding and fuel expansion. The key challenge lies in staying agile and responsive to market shifts while balancing growth and sustainability. So, as business scales quickly, managing a strong focus on the fundamentals and customer satisfaction is very important. So, that is the essence of this track, and that is where we are going to have a very esteemed panel discussing on those lines with us. So, I'll quickly start by introducing our panelists and the companies that they own, or rather, they've founded themselves. So, starting from Mr. Ashish Jhina, he's from Jambotail.c. Mr. Ashish is an alma mater of IIT Delhi. He's done dual engineering in biotech. He's also done his MS from Stanford University and MBA from Stanford Business School. Talking about Jambotail connects small retailers with suppliers through a tech-driven B2B platform, which helps companies reduce their cost and optimize their supply chains. It offers a wide range of grocery and fresh produce at competitive prices, enabling efficient inventory management for retailers. We would be looking forward for Mr. Ashish to come on stage and we'll be talk about adoption of technology in B2B space, which was traditionally a very yes. Sir, first. Next up, we have Mr. Aniket Deb from Bizongo. Mr. Aniket also has an equally impressive profile. He's from IIT Bombay. He's done his dual engineering in chemical, I believe, and he's one of those who's been featured in Fortune 40 under 40 and Forbes 30 under 30 Asia both. So that's a big credibility to have on your CV, sir. Aniket has started Bizongo, which basically empowers brands and enterprises and their vendors to blend result-oriented technology and working capital solutions to unlock fresh paths of success for businesses. They help you in strategizing and digitizing your supply chains. Bizongo in no time has blossomed into one of the India's leading growth enabling platforms, offering enterprises and their vendors end-to-end digitization of their supply chains. Aniket sir, please come on stage and share your expertise. Next, I would like to call Mr. Ankit Mehta. So, we all have seen the movie Three Idiots, I believe. And we all had seen the quadcopter or the kind of drone that was being built there, and then the famous Sunshine song that we had after it. So the credits or the background of that comes from Ankit sir's company. So the company's name is Idea Forge, and they are into UAV space, unmanned aerial vehicles and drones. So I would like to request Ankit sir to please come on stage and share his expertise. Hi. And I believe Idea Forge is the only company which is into pure hardware solutions on this dais right now. So yeah. Next, I would like to call Mr. Vishal Gondal. He completed. He started his company India Games at the age of 16. And Goki, as the internet calls him, he's the father of India's gaming industry, with his current venture focusing heavily on driving a healthier lifestyle shift for people and incentivizing them through gamified insurance model. The shift from curative to preventive healthcare isn't far-fetched anymore. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Last but not the least, I would like to call our moderator for the session, Kriti Doneria. She has spent 6.5 years in industry in artificial intelligence and machine learning, providing machine learning solutions to companies and businesses to improvise. She is also from IIT Kanpur and a senior of mine. Kriti, please come on stage. Over to you.
All right, am I audible to everybody here? Thank you so much for coming back after such a delicious lunch. I know it's a struggle to stay awake after having so many carbs, but I appreciate the patience and the determination you have to come here today. Varun has already introduced our esteemed panel here, and we're all very fortunate to share the same room and same stage as people who are industry stalwarts and people who've made a mark in their fields. These days don't really come in our lives over and over again. So just absorb the energy of the room is what I'll repeat. I said that in the beginning, I'll say that again. Spend a moment to absorb the energy of the room. When you walk out from here, you'll not be the same person who walked in. And I can guarantee that. All right, starting with the panel discussion. Fast and Furious panel, as Varun has already mentioned, is about growth stories, how people have tackled challenges and tackle challenges that nobody has even heard of before. And that's what we're here to hear from all of our experts. I'll start with my first question here, and I'll start with you, sir. So this question is around what role do you think entrepreneurship plays in addressing India's socio-economic challenges, and how can entrepreneurs balance profit with purpose?
So I think one of the biggest challenges for our country is providing sufficient numbers of jobs that are, both remunerative and challenging for people. I think it is probably the one place where a lot of work is required. And I don't think that enough is currently happening. I mean, there's a lot of companies getting built. I think even if 10x, even 100x the number of companies are built, we will still probably fall short. So I think it's probably the burning problem for our country. It's a problem that for us at Jumbotail when we started out, was something that we wanted to, contribute to, provide large-scale employment, provide employment in rural India through enabling, the ability for farmers, people producing food to actually be able to add value to products. I think it's super critical to do. And can you just remind me of the question about entrepreneurs, etc.? What was the?
How can entrepreneurs balance profit and purpose?
I don't think that, it's a false equivalence in my opinion, right? I think this concept of balance, if you do not build a profitable enterprise, you do not have the ability to create impact at scale. I think there's absolutely no question of, you have to be profitable. You have to run businesses that obviously operate at scale. There will be periods of time when investments will go in to actually create businesses that have massive scale. Those businesses, we are not profitable today, but that cannot not be the aspiration, and that cannot be the direction that you're not building in the direction of. So I don't think it's a question of balancing it. I think if you want to create scale, you have to create profitable businesses, and that has to be the intention from day one. Will you be able to do it on day one? Certain types of businesses will require investment. Certain types of businesses only make money at a certain amount of scale. But even though those businesses at a contribution level still must make money from early days. Otherwise, this is a sort of a mirage at the end of some journey. I don't think we should be able to build. We should not be building businesses like that. It's not easy. That's what this panel is here to talk about. But I don't necessarily think of that as a balance. It has to be part of your DNA from day one.
Sure, sir. Moving on to you, Aniket.
Yeah, thanks, Kriti, and thanks everyone for joining in after such a heavy lunch, I guess. So very quick one-line introduction outside to what Varun already said. So Bizongo is a B2B marketplace. So our more sort of famous counterparts, B2C equivalent of Amazon, Flipkart, we are slightly different. We operate by providing SMEs with a software to manage their supply chain and then help lenders such as bank and NBFCs disburse loans to those small-time vendors. So that's what we do. In terms of, I think, Kriti's question about profit versus purpose and the impact of entrepreneurship, honestly, 10 years back when we started off in 2015, at that time, it was very different. I mean, honestly, people wanted to aspire to becoming entrepreneurs, but they really wanted to make very easy inroads. Like, for example, everyone wanted to build a cloud kitchen. No one had a differentiator, but they wanted to build a cloud kitchen because the other person was doing it. So I guess those things in my mind have changed, which is great. And we have forums like these where people are talking about challenging ideas which can create impact at scale. And adding to what Ashish just said, impact would be a societal impact as well, which just doesn't happen because you're providing like employment to people, but you're actually kind of empowering them to think bigger, think better. And absolutely aligned to what was also said around profit versus purpose. See, purpose again can be something intangible, but that intangible has to be qualified with a business model which generates money. If it doesn't, then you'll never reach your purpose in the first instance. So like if you have a purpose where you want to create, but you are not able to generate money, how will that purpose even sustain? So I think, again, I mean, we have to balance both of these things together. In our case, one small anecdote to be added is that we actually turned profitable quite early on, but in our case, the challenge was slightly different because in a B2B context where working capital is a main deal, the balance sheet actually is bigger than the P&L statement, which I think a lot of us ignore. Even me personally, I still think I'm fairly young, but at a starting stage, when I was younger at that time, I also told myself, I'm so profitable, we can do anything we want. But that doesn't really matter because from a cash position standpoint, where the amount of money that's actually hitting your account at a daily basis or a monthly basis, that is what matters actually even more in a business like ours, which we on and off, very volatile. 1 month it's okay, the other month it's not that okay. And you can't really kid yourself and say that, okay, you're doing great because you're profitable. I mean, that's for the PR agencies to grab. But in reality, you have to always go back telling yourself when you're going to bed that, okay, much more needs to be done, nothing really has happened. So I guess that beginner's mindset actually plays a role in creating entrepreneurship impact at scale is my personal belief. Thanks.
Sorry to come in, but a very important point. Balance sheet is far more important than P&L. Guys, this is a very important lesson. I've been a venture capital for past 13 years. And if as a startup you can focus on balance sheet, you are right.
Yeah, so if I were to talk about impact of entrepreneurship, I think I'll take a slightly different take, and I totally agree with the takes that my previous two panelists have mentioned. I think impact is something that at times you assess when you're in a really deep state of despair and you're trying to answer the question, why am I doing this? And I distinctly remember that a few years back when we were not a funded venture, it was very tough to sort of survive. And because it was tough to survive, sometimes you do ask the question that, why am I even bothering to survive? Like, I mean, why can't this pain, why should I not let the pain end? And I remember distinctly that day we were about 100 people in the company. And it just struck me that 100 people depend on their livelihood because of me and because of what we are doing. And I think, that's the impact. And that's the time when that impact matters to an entrepreneur. And I think entrepreneurs do things because they matter to them, not because they matter to the world, right? We all do things because they matter to us, not because they matter to the world. And I think it hit me that day that we need to find a way of surviving so that we can continue to make sure that the responsibility that we have is continued responsibility for the team that we have on board. And it's very interesting about manufacturing. Manufacturing is a funny business because in manufacturing, they say that the OEM may employ far lesser number of people than the ecosystem that they build around them. So if I have 100 people, then probably 1,000 people depend on their livelihood because of my 100 people, because I'm an OEM. So I think that's another thing which is very important to understand. And overall, in terms of purpose and profit, I think profit is a matter of survival, right? Like somebody mentioned that if you can't survive, then, purpose won't matter to you. So I think there are two phases of entrepreneurship. One is a phase where you do anything and everything that helps you survive. And then when sometimes that survival question is not immediate or imminent, you try to make sure that you do everything right to fix your purpose. Now, the only thing I think entrepreneurs can do in the real world, particularly as the journey goes up and down, is that they can just make sure that what they are earning profits on is on the way to the path to purpose. So I think if you can, as close as possible, align that, I think that's the best an entrepreneur can do.
That's great, sir. Over to you.
So first of all, I completely disagree with what Ashish said. I even more disagree with what Aniket said, and I partially agree. I think we have to wake up and smell the coffee, guys. The big, we used to talk about the big fish eating the small fish. Now we are talking about the faster fish eating the slower fish. Now we are not even talking about fishes and water. We are going to Mars. AI is going to disrupt jobs, so forget about employment creation. There is going to be mass layoffs across industries, not because these people are not good. It's because AI is going to augment so much of the work, especially repeated tasks, automation, RTAs. So if anybody was part of anything which was a repeated task, there is a very, very high degree that jobs will go away. So I think employment is not about employment anymore. I think what I'm thinking of is augmentation. That there will be some people who will be able to augment themselves to become part of the new workforce, which is agentic, and there will be people who will not be able to do this. So then comes the second part of purpose. Now the people who will not be able to do this, the good news is that they are not going to not get paid. I think governments and companies are going to figure out a way to give them some kind of income. There is all talks of all versions of universal basic income because your jobs were taken away because of AI, and there will be, money paid to you to reskill you and et cetera, et cetera. So problem is going to be purpose. If people don't have purpose, that becomes a problem. And I'm sorry to say the rat race we are all in, and IIT is the epitome of the rat race, right, in India. You are champions of the rat race. That becomes irrelevant because we are no longer, in fact, Elon Musk just posted that he is recruiting programmers, nothing required, just send your code to this email address. You could be anyone, no qualification required. I mean, from few years back, and again, don't take anything personally. I'm a college dropout. I have nothing here, right? So I'm just saying that we should be now discussing that how do you figure out what do you do in this new age of how companies will be built. We are kind of reimagining our companies because, in fact, if you see Mark Benioff talked about, and even Jensen Wong talked about, you actually having colleagues who are AI bots. In companies, you will have your team, so managers will actually be managing 5 bots who are working under them. So in this entire scenario of what is happening in AI, what's happening with robotics in a big way, I mean, he can tell you all kinds of innovation happening. Purpose becomes very important, and profit becomes irrelevant because by default, you will have profits. In fact, we are talking about, initially there was a benchmark that can there be a one-man company who could do $10 million revenue? Can there be a one-man company who can do $100 million revenue? And soon there will be one-man company who will do $1 billion in revenue. So that's where we are going in terms of how things are going.
That was an interesting round, and I think we had quite a few interesting perspectives. I work with Agentic AI, for example, sir, so I agree with you.
How many jobs are you going to generate?
I think 2 or 3. I generated 2 today. So people you see here used AI to draft your company profiles, your speaker intro.
I'm just joking. You don't have
and all of that. So we're already doing that. We're already there. on a day-to-day basis is what I'm going for. But I also agree with Ashish sir when he said that profit and purpose are a part of the same equation. They're not mutually exclusive. And I think you said the same thing, that profit is a given. We just need to talk about impact now, right? So we conclude that question on a good note.
I always love when panels disagree. It's always much more interesting. Otherwise, life is just a bunch of people going around in circles saying things. But if I may, I think you make a very valid point that there will be parts of this economy where the repetitive tasks will definitely perhaps be done better, faster, and in more numerous ways. And there's definitely, we as a company, absolutely are looking to leverage those elements. In fact, we're actually, working on creating agents that help small kirana stores also, right? Why should AI only be the preserve of large companies that can actually afford to do this? I think the true benefits of AI will come when every single person, when you're running a small kirana store, when you're a small farmer, when you're a small company that's actually looking to build something, also has the benefit of the, the reservoir of knowledge that the universe, presents itself, and can actually leverage it in a way that otherwise not possible with you. Having said that, I think as a country, yes, we must wake up and smell the coffee, but at the end of the day, our food will still need to be grown by people. While manufacturing will employ fewer people, I don't believe that the future is, we still have a very large population of people. I don't believe that the universal basic income is something that will magically present itself over the next, few years.
You just had it in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, right? Women are getting a lot of...
So as context, right? I spent 3 years of my life working on the public distribution system as it's the largest mechanism by which government transfers subsidies to people on the ground. You still have to move physical product. You still have to provide, yes, there will be a world, and for some of us, some of us who are in a much more privileged situation.
But Ashish, if you see Goldman Sachs report, they're saying 11 billion robots will be part of the workforce like in the next 7 years. I mean, you know more about what's happening in
So I think,
robotics.
Not disputing all of that, yeah. I'm just saying that there is a future for some of us which will come. See, the beauty of India is India operates in various different, like there's an India that operates in a very different time frame that, it does. There'll be, that India will exist, as will the India that will exist where every day people will wake up and they will need to grow crops for all of us. Yes, you may be able to pull out an app that may actually be able to deliver that, but even that is a privilege that is available only to about 20 million people or 20 million households in this country. We're a country of 1.4 billion people. We cannot assume that this is a problem that is going to figure itself out. Employment at scale, and through employment through entrepreneurship, I believe is an extremely important requirement, and it's not necessarily going to happen tomorrow just by, AI. There's no doubt, I'm not an AI denier, but I'm saying that, we can't wish away this problem and assume that that will magically fix itself.
I think the two sides are debating short term and long term. In my opinion, there is a short term situation, and then there is a long term vision and clarity that efficiency eventually will win. Capital efficiency will win, right? Whatever is cheaper to deploy, like for example, the cost of labor in China has become more expensive than deploying a robot. So you will see China as the largest robotics deployment market in the world at this point in time, because cost of labor is higher than China. And that is because people keep needing more wages beyond a point. As people keep needing more wages, you in the end realize that technology can, make that happen cheaper. And efficiency in the long term will win, because the same people who need employment will also need goods cheaper than they were getting earlier. So I think jobs will shift, and these shifts have happened across the world, across ages. These shifts have happened when people discovered tools, and everything is a tool eventually, right? And therefore we have to keep thinking how the world will evolve when this tool is used to its max. And I think there will emerge new things to do and new ways of doing things, which will include in some parts, to bridge the gap, universal income, which may include in some parts us doing things more efficiently with people rather than building things that are done without people. So I do agree, I do know of places where farming is done entirely robotically without people involved. So therefore, there is enough happening globally for us to know that everything will happen, but it will happen only when it is economically viable for people to do it.
Now I fully agree with you.
No, so staying true to its name, this is what Fast and Furious is all about.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for that
I would
curiosity.
say furious is all about.
Yes, yeah. So just to add one small point, I think brilliant points made by everyone. I guess the point is only about the process that we take or the time that we take to reach that state in some sense. I think we were talking about mythical creatures being unicorns in the first panel. This is also like we have our own aspirations to what that mythical state might look like. But one thing that actually gives me a lot of hope is that, okay, there are a lot of spaces or places on the planet which are much more, say, robust in terms of better air quality, better housing, better comfort in terms of, say, real estate, everything. But okay, we might be much behind than a lot of the our Western counterparts in terms of, say, development of cutting edge tech. We might take a lot of time to get there, but also to like resonate with everyone here. We do have the energy or the wherewithal or the intent to at least put efforts. A lot of countries, a lot of societies don't. They're pretty complacent, pretty stagnant with what they have, and they're like, okay, if AI wants to come and eat us, okay, fine, we are okay with it. We'll find a way. But we are at least not stagnant, which is something that gives me at least some hope.
So the only thing I wanted to add to this is ki, I think the world is moving towards the direction of precipitating the change which is imminent very, very fast. Like the biggest challenge is that the precipitation of that change is happening faster than we can imagine. And that's where the biggest disconnect is, that before people can adopt, habits can change, behaviors, mindsets can change, the technology has already moved on. And I think that's the biggest challenge we are all facing, that we don't have time to adjust yet, because we are not adept at changing that fast. Our behaviors, our methods, our approaches, unless we are bribed to do it. Like for example, we all adapted to e-commerce, fast, quick commerce very fast, because all of us are bribed to do it, because it's cheaper to buy from Zepto, even if they are delivering unsustainably, if at all we look at the economics today, because they are bribing us to do it. And we are all very adept at changing our behavior if we are bribed to do it. I think we have to recognize that, and that's how change is getting precipitated all across the world.
I'll sum this up by quoting somebody who does stand up. I'll skip the name. I come from two Indias. One India grows food in the farms, probably using a robot, and another uses the same robot to do cleaning work at his house. And with that, I'll wrap that question up. But yes, that is what we talk about. It was not fast, but it was definitely furious. But let's just be cognizant of the time now. The second question I have for all of you is actually very personal, and we'll start from you, sir. So we want to know about your entrepreneurial journey. Considering you've all been seasoned entrepreneurs, you're not new to the game. You have been in the game for as long as some of us have been in the workforce, or a few of them sitting at the back. I'm pretty sure you have more work experience than however old they are. So I need to know what sparked your interest in entrepreneurship, and more importantly, what motivates you to continue on this path every single day when you wake up and smell the coffee that we were just talking about?
So like I said, being an entrepreneur is a sport where you learn to fail and you enjoy failing, because out of 365 days, you will fail 365 days. You don't even know what day you will succeed, but you have to enjoy that part. You know, we are in school, in colleges, we are actually taught to win. You know, you don't enjoy losing, or you don't enjoy failing in exams. So in my case, I learned, or my spark of entrepreneurship came from the world of video games, where I started playing video games. And then I also played sport. I was a national level volleyball player. Of course, I am right now a little out of shape, but yeah, I was a volleyball player. And what I learned in sport and in video games was that you have this attitude that, yeah, you know, if you can't beat the boss or the bad guy in one, you keep retrying, you keep improving, you keep grinding and practicing and making yourself better. And similarly, in team sport, what I learned was that you could be very good, but you could lose because of how good the opponents were or how bad some of your other team members were, but you had to motivate them and go back to play the next game. And that's not easy, believe me, right? If you keep losing. And these are qualities which are required for entrepreneurship, right? Because you are leading a team, you are constantly failing, but you can only have that hope and motivation if you have a vision and a large enough purpose, which is why having a purpose-driven organization is important. So in my case, when I started my first company, I wanted to build games. And what people said is, who's ever going to play or make, you know, like video games it was 1994, 95. People laughed at me when I said people are going to play for video games. Today, I'm sure there are right now people playing games in this session. And gaming, by the way, is the biggest entertainment business in the world, more than movies, music, and everything else. And there were a lot of disbelievers on this. Similarly, when we launched, uh, about 10 years back, we talked about a system where there'll be data, there'll be wearables, there'll be health coaches, there'll be AI giving you proactive advice, and everything will be connected to your insurance plan, and people thought we are stupid. But today we have not only done this, we are doing this in multiple countries. So I think another barometer for me was when I think of an idea and people say it is stupid, I think I should be doing it.
That's great. I just want to add one fact here. Sir has already mentioned gaming is one of the biggest entertainment industry in the world. There is one more industry that's even stronger than gaming, and that is fantasy gaming, sir. You know, it runs on black money. Let's just be real here. It runs on black money. And
We don't call it gaming.
I know we don't call it gaming, but that's there.
That's real money gaming.
Yes. So on top of it, gaming is a big business, yes, but so I have been a gamer, so I relate to that sentiment, sir. The only catch with gaming is any new tech that comes out, gaming is one of the first industries to adopt it. Gaming was the first industry to adopt reinforcement learning that we use in all our AI systems. Gaming was the first industry to adapt to all of those bowling simulators and variables that sir talked about. And we have a few other people who work in variables. So,
What games were you playing? Which game?
sir, I had a PS4 growing up, so yeah, that way. Gaming is also an industry to pick up VR very early on. So we all remember going to malls and playing on those simulators. So simulation, variables, I think Gen AI as well, graphics, gaming is an industry, has evolved, and it's here to stay, sir. I agree with you. All right, moving on to the
Play
next.
4G, our new game which is coming.
Okay, moving on to you, sir.
Yeah, I think, entrepreneurship, I think I completely agree with Vishal that learning to fail is very important. And even though getting through to, an institution like IITs is a lot of wins have to go your way right for you to be there. I think, once you get there, you start experiencing failure for the first time, and it's a rude shock, right? Because pretty much everybody else other than you is brighter than you in some way or the other. And that starts settling in one form or the other. And then I think doing anything with your own hands, right? I don't think anything you do with your own hands goes right the first time. Typically, it will fail. And if you start building things, you will start realizing the reality of failure in a very big way. And I think that keeps going on. So you get used to it. And I think that's what happened to me, at least. When I came to IITs, I came to want to do engineering because I used to get a lot of ideas as a kid. And I thought that engineering is a good place for me to build those ideas. And when I came to IIT, I decided that I will do that. And I probably did more than 20 hardware projects as a student. All of them, as you would expect, they were failures when they started. And then slowly and slowly, some of them I couldn't convert to successes, but many of them converted to prototypes that worked. I think 7 or 8 of them were my original ideas, and I think rest of them were competitions and whatever I did at coursework as well. So I think that drove a hunger that can I do this, exactly this, anywhere else if I were to go and do a job. So it was a very conscious choice. And I felt that at least in India, there was no place where I could have done exactly what I was doing at that time. So I did want to perpetuate the fun that I was having as a technologist, wanted to create technology. And also the failures when we failed in competitions, we failed because we did not have reliable products, we did not have a plan to survive even if something fails. There were many learnings that came because of those experiences, and that also drove a hunger that we know how to make technology perhaps, but we don't know how to make products. So we want to learn how to make products. We want to build things that survive in people's hands in the real world. And today the drones that we make, our customers have done over 600,000 flights on our drones. Every 3 minutes an IdeaForce drone takes off in the country doing something or the other. So that hunger was one of the biggest drivers of wanting to do entrepreneurship. And I think the other thing was that I had a team that had the staying power to fix when something breaks, when you start doing something. And I think that was another very important vector. And I think last, but the most important vector, I would say that wanted us to do it here in India. We knew we could do this elsewhere in the world. We could have gone and studied abroad. It was relatively simpler to do that when you are at IITs and academically not poor. But the desire to do it in India was because our alma mater invested so much money on all of those ideas that I implemented. I did not spend a penny from my own pocket. And that told me that perhaps, and I used to go to other colleges, competitions, and I realized that this was a place where they would give us money, but they would never bother to actually help us do anything. We would be doing whatever needed to be done, only we would be doing out of our own effort. But if any other college in the country had given them money, they would have a faculty making sure that every money or every penny is spent appropriately and the ideas or whatever, they were in charge. And in IIT Bombay, at least, we were in charge. And I think that experience and that privilege was something that I felt very deeply about. And I felt that if I also go and do exactly what I was seeing my peers do, then is that the right thing to do given what I have received as a debt from not just my alma mater, but from my country itself.
Aniket, sir.
Yeah, I think when Vishal and Ankit, at least on this question, mentioned a lot of wonderful things, got me thinking as well. I think in my case, I am honestly a completely accidental founder and entrepreneur, you can call it. Because in 2015, when I started up, before that, when I was on campus, everyone used to, there was an organization called eCell within our campus. They used to have these talks and orientation. I was the last person to even think of going there. I was like, yeah, these guys call us for everything, why should I go? And there was no reason. At least in Mood Indigo, the cultural fest, you used to have a band, and I was a music fan. Okay, I'm getting something here. What do I get here? So I never ended up going, and so I never understood what it's all about. But then I wondered why that was the case, and something resonated deeply with me. So essentially, I'm from West Bengal, very small town near Calcutta, around 60 kilometers away. Dad is a pediatrician, doctor, so I have not really seen money actually getting exchanged between people. The maximum I'd seen probably 10, 15,000 between two people getting given as cash. I'd never seen anything more. So for me, business was those chimneys throwing out black smoke, in the fields and polluting the environment. That is all I could think of. It was always a negative connotation. And I feel that in India, at least, I think something is a very, very strong force and should be respected a lot, is that we are from very different communities and cultures and we don't respect our backgrounds enough. There's always something good to take out of, I feel. So, like in my case, I knew nothing about business, which, I don't know, worked for me in a serendipitous fashion. But I knew some things about, say, human interaction. So that helped up. Like, for example, I used to go to my dad's patients and talk to them and understand from them, what are your challenges at a daily level? How much do you earn? Do your children go to school? Very, extremely poor sort of economical backgrounds. And that helped me sort of get the people behind the team at the right point. Because when I started off in 2015, there was no concept of a B2B e-commerce marketplace. Like, it was not even heard of. Everyone used to be very skeptic as to, okay, what is this guy doing? Why is this even interesting? At that time, the pitch for me was never, like, I did not even use the word e-commerce even once. It was all about, okay, it's interesting because there are a few categories we are targeting. We are going to take from small SMEs. We are going to give them jobs. We are going to give them money. And their business is going to increase because of us. So we are going to do something good. And everyone joined in. So I resonated much later that I could do it because of the experience that I had with my dad's clinic long time back. So again, like, to be very honest, again, as I said, very accidental sort of a founder. I'm pretty happy with what I do now, honestly, but wasn't the case 10 years back at least. And to make sure that I would sustain those 10 years in those difficult periods, as Vishal said, 365 days, in a leap year, 366 days, all being failures. So to maybe sustain that, the only way to do it is that you need to be really happy and have a gratitude sort of for what you have attained in life. And for me, it was just reconnecting with what my past background had been. So that would be, my understanding of things. Thank you.
I think for pretty much all of us sitting in this room, entrepreneurship is a choice that we can actually proactively make, right? It's an incredible privilege to be able to wake up every day, not sleep very many hours, there's all, we've talked a lot about all the, it's not all hunky-dory, but I think it's still an incredible privilege to wake up every day and work on something that you care really deeply about. And I think something that at least when we started out, our question was, is this something can I really do this irrespective of what the outcome is? Is this something that I'm waking up every day for the next 10, 15, 20 years to do? Because anything worth doing actually takes time, right? There's no shortcuts. There's absolutely no shortcuts to actually making anything consequential happen. So if you decide to be an entrepreneur, which in itself puts you in a very privileged position, make sure that you do it on something that you truly, truly are passionate and care about, because the outcome's not a guarantee. So you have to wake up every day and enjoy that despite all the challenges. We're very fortunate, as part of Jumbo Tail, we serve about 150,000 small kirana stores all across the country. And many of those entrepreneurs, every single one of those is an entrepreneur, and many of those, almost the vast majority of entrepreneurs, do not do this out of choice. For many of them, this is the only way that they put food on their families' table. This is the only way that they actually feed their families, send their children to school, envision a deep, a better future. And I think that, therefore, when we look at entrepreneurship, this is a lot of it, right? Is entrepreneurship by choice, which is an incredible privilege. For the vast majority of entrepreneurs in this country, the nameless people, none of whom are on this panel here, it is not always a privilege, right? It is a necessity, it is a daily struggle. And therefore, I think it's important to work on things that you truly care about. For me, that journey came from, I come from a family of farmers in Himachal Pradesh. My parents are apple farmers there. My grandparents before them grew apples. In 2014, after having seen a little bit of the world, I went back and I said, I'm going to spend the next 20 years living in the village, trying to, I watched Swadesh. You could talk about Three Idiots. Swadesh was, for me, really, really big moment. And I love that movie where I said, okay, I'm coming back from the US. I'm going to go work in the farms. I got very lucky to get out of the village. I'm going to make sure that, farmers get better remuneration for the hard work that they do. And in that year and a half of experimenting on a lot of different things, I realized if anything had to be done to create employment, and I know we have different views on that, but I believe it's an extremely important part where large-scale employment to be created in rural India, my realization was you would have to solve for, food production at scale, food processing at scale, creation of, value-added commodities that consumers in large parts of this country could choose. And if you wanted to solve that problem, given the multi-strata nature of that economy, you would have to start from demand rather than from supply. Every one of us, right? We start with a consumer in mind. Farming is actually, or most food production is probably the only large-scale industry in this country that does not start with the consumer in mind. The consumer is opaque. You grow whatever you have grown or whatever your parents have grown, and you hope that someday somebody will pay for it.
Yes.
And our realization was that cannot be the way to do this in the future, and therefore we started on the other end. We said aggregate demand at scale. Our realization was the best way to do that was to work with kirana entrepreneurs all over the country. And so for me, that was the genesis of it, which was while you wanted to solve for problems in one part of the country, if you did not solve for the fact that demand itself must be the source of what you build, because demand, where the consumer goes is where the future goes, right? If you do not have a consumer, and if you don't understand where the consumer is going, you don't get any feedback from where the consumer's needs are going, you will not build a business that is future-proof. And so, it's been an incredible privilege over the last 10 years to do this. Today, 20 million people every day walk into a kirana store that is powered by Jumbo Tail, right? For me, hopefully that number goes from 20 million to 250 million, 250 million to 500 million. As a country, there's no shortage of millions, right? That's an incredible opportunity, but that's what makes me wake up every morning, and I believe it's an incredible privilege to be able to do that.
Thanks for all of those amazing insights. We hear about companies, we see the logos, like I see so many logos here, but it's always much more inspiring to hear the stories of the people behind these labels, because at core, as we established in the first panel itself, people is what drives businesses and then impact, not companies, not logos, but real, actual human people like you and me. So it has been an incredible privilege having you all here. With that, I'll move on to my last question for the day. I want to understand that if you could give your former self an advice, say 5 years back or 10 years back, and you're seeking to scale and sustain momentum in a market as fragmented as it was back then, what is the one piece of advice that you would say? Whoever wants to start can start.
Okay, probably I'll take a shot and
Sure.
um, uh, again, I think one thing that comes to mind in terms of advice is that I believe there were parts and parcel of the entire tenure where I did not really fully enjoy my work, and that was because I was taking too much pressure. And I think it stems from this amount of expectation that we have from our own selves. So, say Ashish was speaking about, the joy that he had watching, say, apple farming happening in Himachal. I had a different joy. I had my father treat 100 to 120 patients every day. Like parents walking in with their children, hoping that some magic will happen and they will be cured. And the expectation that people have in tier 3, tier 4 India is extremely different. I mean, for them, putting food on the table, making sure that children are healthy just means everything. So I saw that, but also that made me believe that, okay, if I have actually now started a company in 2015, brought people together, raised capital, all of that, does it mean that I have to solve a part of that problem? And make people, like alleviate their concerns. I think that put me under, and this I realized way ahead in my journey, like 23, 24, I realized that, okay, I was taking a lot of pressure because somehow mythically in my mind, I was thinking that, I'm actually alleviating and impacting more people than I thought I would, or I thought I am. So as Ankit was very properly mentioning around the OEM story of say 100 people and then 100 going to 1,000, we also need to remember that we are in our ways at whatever scale we function as founders, we are doing our best. We have limited parameters in our hand, limited factors that we can control. We should always strive to give our best, knowing that the ecosystem will somehow come in together and things will happen. But this urge that we always have, that grow big, become successful because the world wants you to. Sometimes we actually need to wonder whether you actually wanted to, because I definitely am sure that 5 years back. I wish I had not taken that amount of load or mental, cognitive load in terms of wanting to grow. You have to grow because it's just the nice thing to do. So I would have. My advice to my own self would be just relax.
To bring four together, and that takes time. So you have people, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, you cannot drive a car looking at the rear view mirror. So, in my case, my advice to myself whenever I go will be just ignore anybody else's advice and just keep moving forward, because you are at any given point of time having unique circumstances, and those circumstances make you take whatever decision you take. So they can't be recreated or rethought, because what you decided that time was possibly the best thing. So just keep moving ahead.
That's great, sir. Over to the rest of you.
Yeah, so I think two advices. One is that, I have at least now come to really appreciate the value of experienced, you can say, learnings. And, if you find people who have a similar experience, then, absorbing that experience fast in your context and working on that quickly, I think really helps. A lot of times we tend to want to, do it ourselves, but that experience learning can speed up your process of, gaining the outcome that you want to get. And I think the last thing that I think it's very important is that I wish I had known this earlier, that everything that comes to you need not be appreciated only if it has been fought hard to get. I think a lot of times we forget that there are a lot of privileges that come our way, they walk our way, and we tend to underappreciate them and sometimes totally ignore them because they don't feel like we've won them. And I think that's not good. That's not a good feeling to carry. I think if somebody is helping you, then take that help and build on it. There are many people in this world, I think, who can't help but grow in privilege, but their ability to grow on that privilege is more important than their ability or their, the fact that they got the privilege easily. I think that's all.
I know this is fast and furious. I think the one thing that I would have liked to have probably reminded myself, and I do that now every day, is it's just going to take a long time. I mean, there's only that fast and as furiously as you can grow. Some things take their own time. You'll feel like you're making 3 steps forward. Sometimes, it'll come followed by 4 steps backward. That's part and parcel of the process. Every day, you don't know what you'll get at the end of the day, but I think if you play it out over a long enough period, you survive, which is why it's important to be profitable in the long term. As long as you survive, as long as you're, doing something in the right direction every day, it may not result in the right outcomes in the short term, but stick to it. It's difficult to do sometimes. There are entire months, quarters where things just move like, feel like they're moving in the wrong direction. It will take time. I mean, it will be fast and furious when you look back. It's pretty despondent sometimes, and as long as you live through that, it's life is generally a good place over a long enough period of time.
Those are all super insightful answers. To conclude this panel, I just have one statement: be fast, be furious. They say that the days are long, but the years are short, and that's what Sir mentioned. And we also heard about how privilege is not always a bad thing if you happen to have it. You can be an amplifier. So if you get one, and you have the ability to take that one from 1 to 100 and give it to 100 more people like everybody here is doing, take that chance. You never know whose life you'll end up changing. And with that, I'll transfer control back to our MC here, which is Varun.
So we'll have a quick time for a few questions. Anyone? Okay, let's go here.
Hi, my name is Surbhi. Thank you for your great talk and being so open about sharing your personal stories. I just have a question. When you guys started, there was like a different, maybe kind of founders then, but versus today, like the hype around it and the kind of news that we read, I don't know how believable that is, but just because you guys are on the ground, what differences do you see amongst the founders starting today? And what do you feel is like amiss versus when you guys were starting off in your stories?
At least what I have observed is that I think people are very confident. I think they are far more confident than probably we were in our own minds. Only wish at times would be that confidence comes with the ability for somebody else to peel 2 layers into that confidence. I think many times that confidence and the layers behind it are very shallow. So that it's a very thin veneer many times. People are very confident, but then they don't have the depth necessary to go deep.
I actually think there's a lot, like the people starting up today are probably much better equipped to succeed. They have more exposure. Many of them have actually worked in companies before. They've seen entrepreneurial environments. I think most people starting around our time, there was not really that many people that you could actually talk to or look up to, or, it was a very small world. The ecosystem had less support. I actually think, this vintage of people will probably see a lot more well-rounded people coming out of it. The one danger I think there is this, call it founder, there's a little bit more, like this whole founder word is a little bit of a dangerous word. People can get caught up in this whole thing. At the end of the day, yes, you're starting a company, but companies get built by large groups of people coming together. I think sometimes, given that we have a lot of media attention, we have a lot of that happening today, it can get a little easy to get caught up in your own, BS. I think that's one danger, but I think people are, there's a lot more likelihood of people succeeding today because they've actually been part of companies that have been through that journey, and I think that experience is invaluable.
Paucity of time, we'll just take one more question. That's it.
Hi, my name is Rajiv Agrawal. My question is, again, going back to the amount of noise that is out there. What is one thing that you perceive, and I would request if each of you can answer, what is one thing that you think is a generally accepted wisdom that you think is not necessarily so based on your experience? So what is one thing that you disagree with that almost everybody else agrees with?
Sort of like Mythbusters in the world of startups.
Everybody thinks that money can solve all problems. That's not the case. In fact, people think I need more. If only I had more money or more capital, I could have done something. That's not the case. In fact, sometimes too much capital is what is the problem. So when you are kind of starved of capital, that's when you become more creative.
I think the money point, there are more money, more problems sometimes. But I think no money also sometimes problems, right? So I think you can't.
Not no money. I mean,
But I agree. I think that measures of success, especially in private markets, right? When we there's a period of time people are building businesses. You don't really have other metrics. Sometimes people get very excited about having raised money. Raising money is a pit stop to actually get fuel to drive. People who stop for more fuel don't necessarily win races, right? I mean, I think it's important. You shouldn't run out of fuel, but that's not a measure of success. I think most of the companies that will be successful in the long term almost invariably will not be the companies that raise the most money. I think, in fact, early on, if you learn how to do it with less money, then you can actually put the money to better use. I think there's a tendency to say, I raised X amount of money early on and look at that as a measure of success, almost as a goal in its end. That can be very, very dangerous. And we've seen that play out a lot of times, and it doesn't always end well.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. With this, we would like to, come to the fag end of this session. I would like to request Saurabh, sir, to please give token of appreciation to all our esteemed panelists, and then we would conclude this session.